So I hope that we're able to answer all of your questions about getting back into control with food. So I'm Jess Rowe. I'm a holistic health and fitness coach, and my goal here is to make living a healthy life that you enjoy as simple as possible and as less confusing. Really just simplify all of the overwhelming information out there so that you can get to know your body, get to love your body, and get to make empowered decisions that don't involve guilt or anxiety. So here we are. Let's recap super quick. Day 1, we started working on the hand portion method, which gives you so much more clarity and really helps you get more in tune with how much food is right for you. Instead of worrying about calories and measuring out your food, that is all exhausting. That is anxiety inducing, and I don't like it. So I love the hand portion method because it keeps it super simple and it's tailored to you. Plus, it's just a guideline, so you get to adjust it however you need, which is great. Now, day 2, we started working on slowing down so that you could really start recognizing your hunger and fullness cues. Plus, when you slow down, you actually get to enjoy the experience more, and you generally have fewer digestive issues, which is always a plus. So day 3, we started refining that even more. You started working on eating to 80% full, so really refining what is full for you. And then I gave you that Hunger Game worksheet so that you can really continue to refine that and get to know your body, because most of us were taught to ignore our hunger and fullness cues. So the worksheet and the habit itself will help you really start refining when are you hungry, when are you full, and what works best for you. What does your body need? So today we are going to start getting to the root of your problem with feeling out of control, because we can go over all of these foundational habits, right? Which they're incredible. I love these foundational habits, but they're very, very simple, right? And so it's very easy for you to be skeptical that they might not work for you, especially if we have not addressed the root of the problem where you feel out of control with food. Now, ideally, these habits will help you feel more in control with your food, but it doesn't really get to the root of the problem. It's more of a really effective Band-Aid. So today we're actually, we're going to get into the root of that problem so that you can really have the full package. So what I want you to walk away with today is really feeling empowered to start setting the boundaries that are right for you around your food so that you can actually start enjoying your food more, while being confident that you are taking the right steps to start working towards whichever health goals you have, whether it's weight loss, whether it's just loving your body more, whether it's feeling more empowered with the choices that you're making, maybe a little bit of all of that. So I hope that you walk away with that a little more in place today, or at least some inspiration going to get you on the right track. So in the email today, which again, if you've not received emails, let me know. I'm happy to resend them. Part 1, I gave you part 1 in the emails. And part 1, we were talking about just starting to expand what we've been working on. You've been building more awareness with your body, with really focusing on when is your body sending you cues that it's hungry or full. And today we're really expanding that awareness to start recognizing how your body is responding to the different foods that you're putting into it, because we need to know how the different foods make you feel before we can start setting boundaries around different foods, because there might be foods that make you feel great. You don't really need boundaries around those. If they make you feel good, physically, mentally, emotionally, you're good. You don't need a boundary around that food unless you really feel like you need one. But if you are feeling out of control with foods, it's because at least on a subconscious level, you have identified there's an issue with that food. And that may be because of diet culture. Maybe you've heard it is a bad food for you, you're not supposed to be eating it, so then that triggers all that anxiety, and you're I'm not supposed to be eating this, I'm supposed to have a boundary with this food, and I don't have that, I don't have the self-control, what do I do? So instead, like we've talked a lot, and I'll always talk a lot about this because I feel really, really strongly about this, that most of the confusion and the anxiety and the guilt and all of those nasty emotions and feelings that you get around healthy choices, those come from not being fully in tune with your body. Those come from external sources. Those come from the professionals and the gurus all telling you what you should and shouldn't be doing. And then you internalize that and you don't know how to like find a happy balance between like what the professionals say and what your body actually wants and needs. Like you haven't learned to bridge that gap. And that is where all of that guilt and the shame and the anxiety comes from. And so you're going to start bridging that gap with part 1 of today's habit, which I sent out. I believe it's the How Food Feels worksheet. I have to look again. But the How Food Feels worksheet, you will start bridging that gap just by internalizing your awareness, coming back into your body. Just block out, like create a nice little bubble, right? Nice bubble, block out all of that external noise. You don't need it. You need to be in touch with your body first. You need to know what your body wants, how your body feels about all the different foods you're putting into it. And once you have that information, then you can kind of start filtering it through all the other noise out there. Like, is dairy really good for me? I don't know. Some people it's great for, other people not so much. Like, you have to get in touch with your body first before you can make that determination. So start filling out that How Food Feels worksheet. Obviously, you can print it as many times as you need. One of the things that I work closely with I can't talk, guys. I'm sorry. I need a break after this, I think. All right. One of the things I work closely with my clients on is doing a variation of a elimination diet where we actually take the foods that we suspect their bodies are not doing well with, and we just take them out to give their bodies time to reset, time to feel better, and then we slowly experiment with adding those foods back in to see what the actual result is. I'm not going to tell you guys to do that today. I just want you to know that that is a possibility, especially if there's like health issues going on, gut issues, other whatever health issues. Everything's connected to the gut. So, but you can start recognizing, like, when do I feel crummy? Like, oh, every single time I eat this particular food, I get a headache within half an hour. Or, an hour or two later, I feel like my stomach is 5 months pregnant. Like, you start to recognize these patterns. And from there, you can start recognizing, okay, which foods might be problems for me? Which foods do I need to practice setting some boundaries around to see if I feel better when I set those boundaries? You don't necessarily have to remove foods. I'm really big on not restricting, but sometimes it helps to be able to set a certain boundary so that you can really feel good in your body. So the big thing that you're doing with this worksheet too is you'll notice on there, it reminds you that you're not only registering your physical sensations that come from eating, you're also noticing like how you're feeling mentally and emotionally. Like, do you get super duper tired after you eat a certain food? Do you get horrible brain fog? Does your mood just take a dump? Do you go from like pretty okay to just like horrifically grumpy? Because food truly can trigger any of those things. Any sensation you get, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, whatever. All of those can be from food, so you're tracking all of that. Whatever you think is pertinent, don't get overwhelmed. Just whatever you think is relevant, put it down on your worksheet. And that's going to give you the insight that you need to start making confident choices that are right for you and not worry about those external supposed tos, okay? So, like, according to all of the gurus, I am supposed to be eating a very strongly plant-based diet and just eating lots and lots of plants and getting most of my protein from plants. That's one I hear a lot. For me, No, my body does not like that. I get my protein from my meats, and I eat a handful of veggies that actually go through me properly, and the rest can just go in someone else's plate. So that's me. And I am 100% confident in that. And so whenever I hear someone tell me, oh, you're supposed to be eating this, I can confidently tell them, thank you for the information, but that doesn't work for me. So it would be lovely if you can make that statement too, very confidently, right? So let's talk a little bit about expectations with your food, because we need to talk about this. So the big thing I want you to start thinking about as we're discussing boundaries with food is, how do you want to feel with your food? What kind of relationship do you want with your food? I imagine it's one that doesn't involve all the guilt, where you can eat foods that make you feel good physically, you can eat foods that make you feel good mentally, and you can still eat the foods that make you happy emotionally, right? And so the big thing that I love, this is one of my favorite philosophies, I guess, with food. Food is about nourishment, but it's also about nourishing your body, mind, and soul, right? So that doesn't mean that it always has to be healthy. It doesn't. If there are certain foods that you recognize are probably, like, maybe they don't make you feel great physically, or they don't make you feel great mentally, but they fill you up, they fill up your happy cup emotionally, then there's nothing wrong with enjoying those foods. It's okay. That's just where you would want to be empowered to set certain boundaries so that you can create the balance that's right for you with the physical health and the mental health and the emotional health. So food is about nourishment, body, mind, and soul. So that's me with pastries. Oh my gosh, I love having a delicious coffee and some pastries. Oh my gosh, it's my favorite thing in the world. I have a dream of just enjoying coffee and pastries in Paris, looking at the Eiffel Tower. That would be just amazing. But my body hates coffee and it hates pastries, so that's something I reserve for when the rare occasion comes up where I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna make this my once or twice a year thing because I love it that much. So it's okay. It's okay. You're gonna find a balance. Just find a balance, okay? So if food is nourishing you in some way and you are happy with the balance, be happy with the balance. That's all that really matters. So let's dive in a little bit more, because the problem with restricting food, right? You could do only healthy food. You could just say I am going to focus on physical health only. Well, physical and mental, they kind of go hand in hand, right? But you could say, I'm going to go ahead and restrict everything, so I am only eating healthy food. And there is a time and a place for that. Like I mentioned, when I'm working with a client on an elimination diet, that is the time and place where our top priority is getting their body happy again, because they feel so sick all the time. So we are getting their body happy. The emotional cup is going to have to wait. That's our time and place. But it is for a set limited period of time. That is not the rest of their life. Because when you restrict yourself to only eating healthy food, you're still going to be unhappy with your body. Maybe you'll get to a point where you hit your weight loss goal, if that's a goal for you. But generally, even if you hit that goal, you're still unhappy with your body, and you're still going to be unhappy with your relationship with food, because you're actively restricting yourself and you're not allowing yourself to find that balance that actually works for you to nourish yourself, body, mind, and soul. So if you put these foundational habits to work, like we talked about, right, you won't have to stress as much about eating. But that's kind of what we're working on today, is finding what that balance is, right? Because we didn't talk at all about what to eat, really. But I wanted to give you some of those tools to start being able to decide, what should you be eating? What is right for your body? So yeah, it would be great if you could just live on healthy food and not feel restricted. That's true for some people. That's their balance. But also, on the other end of the spectrum, you have these foundational habits we've been working on through the challenge, right? And so the idea is that with these foundational habits, you don't need to stress so much about what to eat, because you could eat only healthy food and still not reach your health and fitness goals because you haven't mastered these foundational how to eat habits, right? On the other side, you can't really live only on processed food because, like I talked about a few days ago, one, the processing and like the high salt and sugar levels in those foods, it makes it a lot harder to actually follow these foundational habits. It makes it a lot harder to actually gauge when you're hungry and when you're full, because then those pleasure centers in your brain get triggered and you're like, oh no, I gotta keep eating these because they're so delicious. And your poor stomach is over here going, no, stop, please stop. So it makes it challenging if you're just living on processed foods, right? It also is a diet that is incredibly nutrient scarce, which means like you are pretty much malnourishing your body, and it eventually really does lead to a breakdown in health and the beginning of chronic disease with that kind of diet. And kind of the standard American diet is what they like to call it. So you can't really just live on that for your whole life, because ultimately it's not going to support long-term health. So today's final foundational habit is going to give you just enough that you need to start considering what you should be eating, while really focusing in on that root of the problem of not feeling in control with your food. So like I said, I want you to walk away today really feeling empowered to start making your own food choices without all the guilt, and to be able to start setting boundaries and expectations with food so that you can start taking back some of your control. So I'm not going to go too much into the what today. Really, that's what we've covered, is just starting to use that How Food Feels worksheet to determine which foods are making you feel good and which foods are making you feel bad. Because going any deeper than that, that's where like we would really need to work together so that I can help you fine tune what is right for you. Part one, like I said, is recognizing how food is making you feel. The big question you're always going to come back to, because this is a skill that you're going to always come back to. Anytime there is a question for you of whether or not you should be eating it, whether or not you need a boundary, you're always going to come back to this skill of recognizing how it makes you feel and how do you want to feel, right? So you got to filter through the information you get from those two questions. How does this food make me feel? And how do I want to feel? And that is going to give you your answer every single time. You might not like the answer. You might not honor the answer. Like you might not actually act on it, but at least you're going to have your answer. And that's going to take away a lot of the guilt and a lot of the anxiety, which is great. So like, I know pastries do not make me feel great. Coffee does not always make me feel great, especially if I drink it like every single day. So I recognize that they don't make me feel good. How do I want to feel? Well, at some moments, filling up my emotional cup is more important than my physical cup. And so I am okay if the food or the coffee makes me feel a little crummy physically, because it means I get to fill up that emotional cup. Like I get to be nourished emotionally and spiritually through that food. And sometimes I put the physical a little aside to make that happen. I don't do it a lot. And so it's very easy for me to confidently and do it and without guilt say, I'm going to go ahead and enjoy this right now. And I can enjoy it fully because there's no guilt, which is a huge blessing. So come back to, how does the food make you feel? How does it want to feel? And there is your answer for what boundary do you need to set? What is going to be your choice in this particular situation? And then you are making a choice from a place of information, from a place of empowerment. And then you're making a choice that's ideally pretty darn guilt-free, which is awesome. So we're going to talk a little bit about some more specific strategies for all of the incredible list that you guys gave me of when you're really feeling the most out of control with food, so that you can start taking back that control and start enjoying eating again. So I'm going to try to get through as many as I can. Let's see, because we are at 125. I'm trying not to make this super duper long. So let's talk for a minute about the favorite foods, because I already kind of mentioned that. Like if it's a food that you really, really enjoy, and you have a hard time controlling yourself, like if you start eating it and you just can't stop. So that's where there are many, many strategies with this. Again, come back. How does the food make you feel? How do you want to feel? So for something, so I'm going to use chips as my example because I love chips and I have like zero self-control when it comes to chips. Like I will literally polish off an entire bag in one sitting if someone doesn't take the bag away from me. So with that, I recognize that is probably one of the very few areas where I like genuinely just don't have much control over the chips. So I only buy a certain amount of chips at a time, and I only buy chips certain times of the week. So basically once the bag is gone, it's gone, and we're not replacing it until the next grocery shopping trip where I am allowed to buy chips. I also make a point of finding chips that make me feel good physically. So I'm very, very picky about the ingredients in my chips. It doesn't include preservatives. It doesn't include food dye. It's none of the artificial stuff. So my bags of chips cost like $5, and there they all go in one sitting. I sometimes can stretch them to $2, but so I'm taking ingredients that are whole. They're as little processed as possible. And so they make me feel good. So if I polish off the entire bag in one sitting, I don't feel bad. Like I recognize that is something I really enjoy doing. That is, that is my boundary with it. I don't want to set a boundary of like, oh, I'm only going to eat a quarter of the bag, because then I feel restricted. And I don't like that. And then I'm just like thinking about the chips all day until I can have my next serving, which that's not a healthy place to be. So I buy the chips that make me feel good, that support my physical health. I set my boundary around when I buy them and kind of like how they fit into my like overarching nutrition plan, I guess. So, like, I'm not overeating by any means by enjoying a whole bag of the chips. I mean, the bags they're not that big. So, but, like, so the boundaries I'm setting are fully within my goals of how I want to feel, what relationship I want to have with the food, as well as what my, like, health and fitness goals are. So that would be my big recommendation. If you have a favorite food that you feel very out of control with, like, once you start, you cannot stop, set a specific portion size where you don't feel restricted, but where you don't feel like gross physically if you eat all of it, right? So you have to kind of play with that. Like, I've had to refine, like, I'm not going to sit there and eat a whole bag of Doritos because that would make me so sick. So that's just one I don't buy. Like I might steal like one from my kids if they have like those little snack packs or something, but it does not make me feel good. So it's very easy to say no to those particular ones and then say yes to the ones that do make me feel good. So I hope that helps with that. Let me know if you have follow-up questions. I could probably talk all day about chips. So sorry guys. Let's talk a little bit about social snacking, because I saw that one a few times. And that is one I also can completely identify with. I had a lot of social anxiety, and to be honest, I might still, but I've not been in like an actual social situation in like over a year, right? So I don't know if I might still have social anxiety, but I was always that person that would hang out by the snack table and just like shovel it in because I didn't want to have to talk to people, and I didn't want to have to face the uncomfortable feelings of being in a social situation where I was really, really anxious and uncomfortable. So that might be you, or it might be like you don't have the social anxiety, you just really love that snack table, and that's okay too. So the big things to start asking yourselves. So if you're dealing with the emotional side of things, we're going to talk about that here in a minute. Some strategies with the emotional side, especially if you're feeling the anxiety. If you're just one of those people that really likes the snack table, you want to go in with a plan first before you see the snacks, because once you see the snacks, it's like game over, right? So before you go in, ask yourself, what do you want out of that time? Like, what is your purpose in being there? Because your purpose in being there is not just the snacks, right? You're there to see certain people. You're there to enjoy the party or whatever you're there for, right? What are you there for? And it's okay if snacks are part of it, like, especially if it's like a potluck or something like that, or a themed party where the snacks are all play in. It's okay if the snacks are part of it, but I guarantee the snacks are not the only reason that you're there. If it is the only reason that you're there, like, I don't know, maybe you reevaluate why you're going. I don't know. Ask yourself before you go in. So what do you want out of that time? And then what kind of nourishment are you seeking to get from the food while you're there? Like, are you there because it's a potluck and you need to eat your dinner? Are you there because you are nourishing your emotional cup? What kind of nourishment are you hoping to get out of it? And then what boundaries do you need to set with the snack table that support that? Like, what boundaries do you need to set to ensure that you get what you want out of that time and to ensure that you get the nourishment that you need out of that time? So maybe you set a boundary like, I'm only going to take X amount from the table. I'm going to make one plate. I'm going to savor the heck out of that plate. And when that's done, I'm going to go focus on talking to people and really engaging with people the way I wanted to, instead of just continuing to load up plate after plate. Maybe you allow yourself seconds on any one or two things that you really enjoyed. It's okay to have seconds. But you have to decide what those boundaries are going to be first, because if you allow yourself to go in there and then just guzzle the food, usually you're not slowing down like you've practiced, right? And so you're not actually enjoying the foods as much as you could be. And so when you say, okay, I'm going to have my one plate and I'm going to enjoy that plate. And then if there's something I really enjoyed a lot, I'm going to allow myself to go back and get seconds. And then that's it. When you do that, you are setting yourself up to really enjoy those plates that you make a whole lot more, okay? And then that gives you a lot more control, where you're like, okay, I'm done with the food part. I've gotten my nourishment. Now I'm going to go get my nourishment from the social aspect, right? So how do you need to enjoy that experience? What boundaries do you need to set? I'm just giving you ideas. So if you come up with something else, that's great. That's your call. Do what's right for you. So let's talk a little bit about the emotional side of things. So especially when it comes to stress eating and emotional eating and anxiety eating, all of that stuff. So you've already identified what the problem is, right? You've identified that you're stressed. You've identified that you're anxious in that social setting or whatever is triggering your anxiety. You've identified that you are experiencing an emotion. Before you go eating to suppress that emotion, because that's what it does. When you try to eat to deal with an emotion, you are trying to comfort yourself and you're trying to suppress that emotion. Now, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a counselor, so I'm not really here to counsel you through it entirely. I'm just going to give you some ideas, though, that have worked very well for me, that I've learned from talking with counselors and therapists. So you are trying to comfort yourself with the food. You're trying to numb that emotion. So if you are able, try to sit with that emotion. Try to understand where it is coming from, and then turn inward again and get in tune with your body and try to discern what that emotion is needing. What is your body needing right now to help you deal with that emotion? Do you need some quiet time? Do you need to go cuddle up with a pillow and some blankets and have a good cry? Do you need to go have a nice bath? Do you need to talk to somebody? Do you need to journal about it? If you get a lot of that mouth, that need to, it's a very natural thing, because think about what kids and babies do to comfort themselves. It's all an oral thing, right? Where they've got either their pacifier or they're nursing or they're sucking a bottle. It's very normal for us to want to comfort ourselves through putting things in our mouth. So what else could you do, right? Could you sit and sip on a favorite tea, or have like some kind of drink, maybe chew some gum, but trying to shift your focus from just the mouth and the wanting to eat things to actually being with that emotion, confronting it and working through it. And that is so, so, so hard. And so if in the process of doing that, you need to have a little bit of food as you start, like, because that's a lot. You can't go from like always dealing with your emotions through eating to not. That's a lot. You can't go cold turkey on that. So what kind of process can you create for yourself where you're slowly like trying to meet your need, that oral fixation need, but working your way towards actually just dealing with those emotions in healthy and constructive ways. So I hope that helps. Let me know if you have more thoughts on that, have more specifics I can talk to. But I hope that gives you some ideas on that. I know it's challenging. I've done it myself. That's like, it's led me into counseling multiple times to deal with that kind of thing. But just recognize that the eating, in order to deal with stress and big emotions and stuff, that is an attempt to suppress them and not deal with them. And so it's an issue that's going to continue to come up if you refuse to confront those emotions at some point. So let me know how you go with that. So let's talk a little bit about the holidays, because we need a little happy. Let's talk about some happy times. Holidays are challenging though, right? As there's all the good food, and it is always all the unhealthy food, right? It's all the food that you usually feel so gross after you have spent all the holiday season eating all of that food. So you're recognizing that it doesn't necessarily make your body feel good, right? You know it. What I have done is we have started kind of modifying some of our recipes and trying to find some healthier alternatives that really include more of the ingredients that keep my body happy, but it still has the same flavors. So it's still just as good, but it's healthier. So that's always nice. Really coming back to these foundations, right? Instead of gorging yourself on those foods, if you are doing the hand portion method, you are recognizing your fullness cues. You are slowing down. That's the big one. Slow down. You won't eat as much. And then you're eating to 80% full. Like, working on those foundational habits make the holidays so much easier. The other thing that we do, because obviously, like, I am not going to go a holiday season and not enjoy some sugar cookies and all the other cookies. Like, I love those treats. They make me feel like garbage. So I limit myself to cooking like one or two of my favorites. And then if we go somewhere where there's like a whole variety of them, I'm setting my boundaries around like one of each. And then after that, I'm planning for a couple of days of really focusing on the foods that make me feel good physically so that I can kind of detox from it. And that seems to be a great balance for me. So let me know if that helps you there. But really, these foundational habits are the big ones for the holidays. So let's see, we had stress eating, emotional eating. Okay, so boredom, I'm going to loop in with the emotional eating stuff too. That is purely an oral fixation, where you're just trying to do something, and babies and little kids generally they'll sit and suck on something, right? So have a popsicle or something if you'd like. Have something to drink, or set a boundary around how much of something that you're going to eat, and then go find something else to do. Like, take away the boredom by going to be productive. I'm sorry guys, but I'm never bored, so I have a hard time with the boredom one. So maybe you can give me more information and I can try to speak more to that. Because me, I'm like, if I'm bored for 5 minutes, I'm like, cool, I'm off doing something else. So that's me. But let me know if that helps. And if not, give me more information. I'll try to help you with that. Let's talk about the late night hunger, because that's a problem. We mentioned yesterday about the whole breakfast example that I gave you, how many people who don't eat breakfast end up super hungry late at night, and they tend to overeat then. So that's the problem, right? I would guess if you're getting that late night hunger, it's because you are not eating enough throughout the day. So what can you do to fix that? Because we know that the late night eating, that is any food that you eat right around when you're supposed to be asleep, your body is going to plug that in as fat. And so first ask yourself, are you making progress on whatever your health and fitness goals are? If your goal is to maintain your weight, just decide what your goal is, right? Decide what your goal is. If you are moving towards that goal, then the late night hunger and eating then might not be an issue. If you are still making progress towards your goals, then it's not an issue. If, on the other hand, you are not losing weight, you are not maintaining your weight, or you're not sleeping well because you have a full stomach, obviously that's a problem. Time to start shifting, making sure that you're eating at least a little bit more at each meal throughout the day, really prioritizing breakfast, whether it's like early in the morning when you get up or maybe mid-morning, and then eating a little more at lunch and dinner so that you're not hungry by the time you're going to bed. So that's really the only strategy with that one. But make sure first that it is actually a problem for you. The before dinner munchies. The problem with that is you're cooking dinner too late, unfortunately. And I have a huge problem with that one too, because that's just the way my schedule lines up every day. It's like by the time I'm getting done with my work, I want a little break time. And then by the time I'm done with that, it's time to cook dinner, but I'm already past the hunger point, right? And so now I have that before dinner munchies, and I'm just like gobbling everything while I'm trying to cook dinner. It doesn't work. It's not great. It's not a great habit to be in. Two things that I've done: I've tried to start pushing dinner back a little bit, and then I've also decided to incorporate a snack in with. So I have a snack like right after I finish my work, about 3:00. I have a set snack. I plan it into my meal plan, so I already know what I'm going to eat. I'm already feeling confident about that decision. I'm not like just grabbing whatever, because once you hit that over hungry point, you're grabbing whatever. So I've built the snack in because we can only feasibly push dinner back so much earlier, right? So I would recommend trying to build in a snack where you have control over what you're eating. And that way, you're hopefully not getting this before dinner munchies so badly. Let me know if that one helps. Let's talk about overhungry real quick, since I mentioned that. Unfortunately, this one comes 100% down to planning. So let's talk about tired and overhungry. It is hard to control your eating when you're tired. We talked about that one yesterday, like especially if you're chronically tired, so hard to make healthy choices. If you hit that over hungry point where you have ignored those hunger cues, because hopefully by this point in the challenge, you know when the hunger cues are happening. But if you're ignoring them, you're too busy, whatever, I get it, no judgment, we've all done it. But if you get over hungry, it's so hard to make healthy choices, because all you can think about is getting something to basically bump up your blood sugar at that moment, which is going to be something sweet and something salty, which is, as we've talked about, not always the best. So planning is huge. One thing I will do is I just build a list of snacks that I'm comfortable reaching for. If I hit that point, I build that list into my meal plan every single week, and then I make sure that those are on hand. That way, if I hit that hungry point, I can grab one of those. I can look at my little list. I can say, that one looks the best. That's the one I'll eat. Because that's the problem too, right? You can plan for a healthy snack, and then when the time comes, you're just like, but I don't want to eat that. So I have a list of snacks that, like, one of them I guaranteed will eat. And that is what I will turn to when I hit that point. For tiredness as well, especially if it's a chronic fatigue issue, keeping your meal plan as simple as possible so it doesn't take a ton of energy to cook, or even trying to delegate that. Like if you have a partner or a roommate or someone who doesn't mind picking up the slack for you that night, that can be really helpful too. So let me know if those help. And let's see, I think the last one is the period. I know, ladies, I hate the period time. It is not fun. You get the bloating, and you get the munchies, you get the cravings, you get all of the grumpy moods and just the discomfort. Like, it's not always fun. I would love to do like a whole workshop on how to start fixing periods. And hopefully that's something I can do here in the future. But for right now, it's normal. is not normal to experience all of that, just so you know. That is something that can be corrected. I can't go into all that today, though. There's a lot. But it is normal for your tastes to change around your period. It is very normal for your body's nutrient requirements to change around your period. So if you are suddenly craving things that are higher in fat or higher in carbs, it's normal, actually. And it's okay to find foods that meet that need. There's nothing wrong with it, especially if it's a food that makes you feel better physically and it makes you feel good emotionally. Like, it's okay. It's very, very normal for your tastes and your needs to shift a little bit depending on where you're at in your cycle. So my biggest suggestion would be to, one, start trying to hone in on what types of foods are you craving at those different parts of your cycle. Like, you could really keep a food journal for a month or two and just start noticing, like, oh, I'm craving higher fat foods at this point in my cycle. Oh, I'm craving higher carb foods during this point in my cycle. And you can count, like, if you're having sugar cravings too, just count that as like a higher carb craving. And then you can start finding foods that will meet those needs that still also support you in feeling good physically. Because I know, like, a lot of women, like, we just want chocolate, right? And you can totally enjoy some chocolate, find your balance, right? How much chocolate fills up that emotional cup and also doesn't make you feel crummy physically. And then enjoy those foods. It's okay. It's really okay. And it's normal for a little bit of weight fluctuation as well. So don't stress about that. It's once a month. It is not going to ruin you. And then just see what healthy alternatives you can find that also meet those needs. Like, do you need to eat some more, like, avocados or like coconut-based stuff, or have some more sweet potatoes or some more squashes, like more apples, more fruits, that sort of thing. So play with it, track your cycles, track your cravings, and start seeing what you can add in there to really meet those needs, because that's a lot of times, especially if it's period related, the cravings are telling you something that you do need. So finding foods that will create a good balance so you're getting nourished physically, mentally, and emotionally, that will really help. So that was like a whirlwind. All right, wow, that was like 20 minutes of giving you guys some strategies for getting back in control with foods. So if I missed any, I made a whole list of all the comments that people had put in. So hopefully I got to all of them. If I missed one though, let me know. Or if you have follow-up questions, let me know. And I'm happy to answer those again as soon as that pops in. So that is it for right now. Go work on your foundational habits. Go start discovering how food feels for you, and start thinking about how you want to start setting more boundaries for yourself. Let me know if you have questions, and have a beautiful day, guys. Thank you so much for joining. Bye.